Good evening, this is Jack from Charles in the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the evening of Wednesday, the 12th of November. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to shoot trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at CTM The Bigger Picture Substack.com, and is published on YouTube after a delay of a week. Okay. All right, let's have a look at the rally so far. We've seen a decent move up here on ES. Got to say it's been losing momentum a bit. No current negative divergence on NQ, losing momentum a lot, and we've got a very nice looking little potential level top here. RTY. This is an IHS which is either broken up or is now forming a right shoulder, which is, if so, down about the right area. I think either way, it's already broken up with basically a targeted retest of the all-time high. And if we see a fail here and it comes down a little more, then there's a pretty good chance it's another IHS which would break up with the same target. This is a pretty decent reversal pattern. YM. YM, we had a decent looking bull flag here, and that broke up and has made target at a retest of the high. That looks pretty good. We've got a potential double top here, but obviously if RTY is going to go up and reach the target, then YM is going to overshoot. Now, NQ, again, is this going to make the target? This is a little large to be an IHS, which is why I haven't marked it in, but this may well just be a consolidation before this goes up. ES has actually made it most of the way back up there already. I'm thinking we may well see a bit of consolidation here, but then there's a pretty good chance we'll go up and retest the highs. DAX had a decent move up today. We've got a double bottom, which is broken up basically with a target at a retest of the all-time high, and it's already halfway there. I'm not seeing anything obvious to suggest it isn't going to make it, and ESDX has already retested the all-time high and gone higher. No current negative divergence. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And looking at ES, obviously this is the third day above the third close above the daily middle band. Looking good. No negative divergence that isn't or wasn't already there on the RSI 14. Same with SPX. Pretty close to a retest of the high, and at this stage, really, I'm thinking we may well see a back test of the daily middle band in the next day or two, but otherwise, I'm leaning towards seeing a retest of the high. Looking at the hourly chart. Very nice looking rising wedge here, and what I'm going to be watching for is does it just retest the high and then potentially fail, or does it get back to the wedge resistance which I've got currently in about it's getting pretty close to the 7,000 area. We could see a move which goes that high, in which case this would be an expansion of this wedge. On the Qs, again, 3 days closes above the daily middle band. It's been a little weaker. Tech is not leading this move. Dow has led this move. So it's been a little weaker. Still thinking we may well see a retest of the high. Here, I'd be leaning towards just a retest of the high. And if we're forming a topping pattern here, that would give us a double top. Looking at the hourly chart, again, nice looking wedge. Unlike the SPX wedge, this actually overthrew at the high, and the dire one overthrew slightly as well. Now here, we've actually already reached that trend line, so I'm going to redraw. Hang on, wait a second. Right, I'm going to redraw this trend line here. I'm wondering whether we might go up to the alternate that I was looking at, which was well, there's two obvious ones here. This would be the first one. And this, more ambitious considerably, would be the second one, although that's quite a long way away still. Both of those would be perfectly acceptable alternatives, which we've got here, but we don't really have any good alternatives on SPX. So I've got this one here is okay. I've got some. This is in the event that we actually see a further move up. I was originally, all year I've been thinking about it high in the December, maybe January area. And I am still thinking that obviously November and December do still do still lean pretty bullish. We may well see some upside moves. We will see. Looking at Dyer, nothing on the 15-minute. None of these have really got much on the 15-minute. Looking at IWM. Okay, IWM. Right, IWM on the daily chart, we are still testing the daily middle band, and we could fail here. And actually, if we did, this would make a pretty decent looking head and shoulders. And so if we do see a strong move down here, the way I would interpret that is we've got a head and shoulders here, which is could be breaking down on IWM. If we go back to DX, DX, we'd have a pretty nice looking double top, and we wouldn't have much in the way of reversal patterns on either SPX, where really I'd be wondering about a possible bull flag forming with a lower low to come, and Qs, where I'd really be wondering about the same. I am thinking, though, that we could do that, but I'm not really seeing much in the way of signals to suggest that we're going to. So at the moment, that's a plan. If we see a hard fail tomorrow, I'd be leaning towards this breaking down, possibly getting some of the way to target, but more likely we would find that these were all bull flags forming, setting up further retest of the highs further down the line. All right, looking at the hourly chart, not in much danger of losing this resistance trend line on IWM here. Really, I think it'd be quite an achievement just to retest the high, and I'm wondering whether we may see a high there when we get there. DAX, one reason I'm leaning towards seeing IWM head up and retest the high is because we've got an equivalent situation here on DAX with a strong push over the daily middle band now, and an obvious target at a retest of the high. Looking at Nikkei, Nikkei, we've seen a decent move, a decent bounce, couple of tests of the daily middle band. Really leaning towards seeing a retest of that high too. Okay, let's have a look at DX. Now, DX, we've got what looks like an awful lot like a bull flag, which is breaking up with a target at a retest of the of this high here in the 120.25 area. Now, this could still be forming this flag, so we could well find that we see a bit more formation before it goes up, but ultimately that's the obvious place for it to go. No current divergence. If we have a look at the bigger picture, well, let's have a look at the other currencies. Here, this looks an awful lot like a wedge, and so I've marked that in, but this is actually, there's an equivalent here on the US dollar chart, which I will show you, although not so much on the DX chart, because I wasn't seeing, last time I looked, do we have, well, okay, potentially this could be a rising wedge, which is breaking down. This is important because we've actually got a two-way setup here on the US dollar chart. Yeah, that could be a wedge which is overthrowing. So I'm going to mark that in. But we've got a two-way setup here with this. We're in an inflection point here, and we could easily fail and head straight back to the lows. I'm leaning towards it going up. I would prefer, I was mentioning, I'd prefer not to see this trend line hit on Sunday, and this is because that would really confirm the wedge here. We haven't hit that yet. I would like to see this go back up to the high and have another test. We'll see whether we get that before that happens. GBP USD, no obvious pattern here at the moment. Could be possible to put a bullish interpretation on it, but at the moment it's just a decline without any particularly clear form. USD JPY, I am wondering about a possible double top here, but the double top looked an awful lot better yesterday, and at the moment we're breaking up through it. We do have a 60-minute sell signal fixed. Looking at the USD CAD, possible bottoming action to take it back up to the high. Obviously, if we do see dollar go up, then that would be bullish on USD CAD and USD JPY and bearish for everything else. Australian dollar, no particularly obvious pattern forming. And NZUSD, possible little IHS which is trying to break up here, but it came pretty close to failing today, and it's a small pattern and may not have the juice to go anywhere. Mainly, I'm watching the DX chart. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture on this. Okay. On the US dollar chart, obviously on the bigger picture, we've got a bull flag here, and I'm wondering about a significant move higher. We've been holding the daily the daily lower band of support, and we've reached this rising support trend line and broken down slightly through it. Ideally, we would actually go up all the way to retest this high here at 114.78. I have doubts about its ability to get there. The US government's not doing anything really to help it get there, but we do have a very nice looking double bottom. I was calling this before we retested this low at 96.22, and it's nice. This is a beautiful double bottom. We've reached it, broke up very slightly, and then we've been retracing slightly. Now, this is a two-way setup, and that's because we've got the double bottom, which is bullish, and we've got a rising wedge, which could be a bear flag, which is bearish. Now, if that rising wedge breaks down with any force, and really for this, I'm watching the daily middle band, which I've got at 99.32. Lose that hard, and the odds of actually going down from here increase a lot. Until then, I'm watching this inflection point here. Is it going to break up and do a decent breakthrough up from this double bottom? In which case, we've got a really good chance of getting up to 104.5 to 104.15, which would be the double bottom target. No divergence really to get us there on the daily chart, but we've got a fair amount actually on the monthly chart, where we've got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed. On the weekly chart, where we've got a weak RSI 14 buy signal fixed. We already had an RSI 5 buy signal which made target. This has got a decent chance of getting back to 104, I think. The question is whether we get through that area, but I think we've got a very good chance of getting there. So I'd give this about 70 to 75% to the upside, and the rest of the downside, because we do have a decent bear scenario. On the bull scenario, in terms of the bull flag, we've also got matching bear flags on USD and on GBP USD. This is a very nice looking setup to take the dollar higher and to take these others lower. How would that fit in terms of GBP? Well, that would involve heading back into a retest this low, which I have to say is ambitious. This was the Liz Truss's very brief prime ministership, which she lost within weeks because she completely lost the confidence of both bond markets and the currency markets. It's going to be hard to retest that low, though it is possible. Looking at the euro, this is a nice looking double top. That's not a setup to get us all the way back to the lows, but in terms of getting to the 104 area, yeah, this would be a good way of getting there. And I think that's got a decent shot, and it's a nice looking pattern. Do we have any support for that in terms of divergence? Yeah, we've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed on the monthly, and we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed on the weekly. So it's the mirror image, really, of what we've got on the dollar. All right, looking at the USD JPY, this is... Hang on, I need to pull out and look at the bigger picture. Okay, we've got a very nice looking rising megaphone here, and this is one reason why I'm thinking that the dollar probably won't go back and do a full retest of the high, because this would involve the yen going up further than I think it's probably likely to. But in terms of getting back to 104, well, that wouldn't be a bad match with heading up into this line or slightly above. Is it possible this overall setup here would be a inverted head and shoulders? Yes, it is. Even though obviously the IHS would have been forming since the 80s. But if we are doing that, I'd really prefer to put in another 3 or 4 years in terms of making the right shoulder. This could be part of that process, of course. All right, looking at the USD CAD chart. Nice looking series of highs here, a lot of resistance up here in basically the 147.5 area approximately. Could we go back up and retest that? Yes. Would that be a decent match with going back to 104 on DX? Yes, it would. Australian dollar, that move could take us back into a retest of this low here, which could set up a very nice looking double bottom. NZ, less clear. Here we've got a very, very nice, basically consolidation triangle that has been forming since 2020. But that would be a decent match with going back and testing this low here. But one reason that I'm thinking that it might be a struggle for the US dollar to get down through there, is really that would be a breakdown on this triangle, which generally speaking would tend to lean bullish. We'd set up a nice looking double bottom here, and not seeing an awful lot of reason to think that would go a lot lower. I think my lean would be we might well just fail at 104, and really there's not much reason that for anything the US government is doing to think that the dollar should be going up. I think 104 is doable. Beyond that, we might need to have a little cooperation from the government. All right, let's have a look at ZB. ZB, I was saying on Sunday that the signals are suggesting at least a little more upside on bonds. We've seen that, and actually those hourly buy signals, the hourly sell signal we had on TNX and the hourly buy signal we had on TLT have now both made target. This is a possible fail area, testing the weekly pivot here. We've got a double bottom, which is broken up. That could fail, but if it doesn't fail, it's got a target up in the 118.18 area. Looking at ZN, less clear what's happening here, but this could easily be a bear flag forming. Waiting to see if that's going to deliver anything. Bigger picture, I think there's a fairly compelling case for bonds going down. But let's have a look at that, because that's mainly on the bigger picture charts. Okay, let's have a look at TYX. Okay, TYX, this looks like a bull flag. And that is suggesting that we're going to be seeing TNX going up to the next obvious target within the bull flag, which would be bull flag resistance. And I've got that up in about the 48.9 area. Looking at TNX, less clear here. Less clear, but we've got a nice looking double bottom here, and I'm thinking that might well play out, and that too would be a decent match with bonds going down. Looking at TLT, TLT, we've reached a big resistance level. This is an obvious way to be pulling back. We pulled back a bit already, but it wouldn't be unreasonable to think there would be more. In terms of patterns to take us lower, there's not an awful lot, but if we are making a significant high here, then the next obvious target would be the possible head and shoulder neckline in the 87.75 area. See a bounce there, and potentially that could take us all the way down to about the 83.5 area. So we'll see how that goes. All right, great. Let's have a look at oil. All right, looking at CL, we had looked like a rising wedge that was breaking up, but then we went straight back down to the bottom trend line. That's overthrowing slightly here. If this is a bull flag, this is the last call for it. It would need to go up here. No current positive divergence, a little retest of this low. If it's just a retest, could set up some positive divergence, and we could see that. Otherwise, this looks like it's heading down again. Looking at the HO, this looks an awful lot like a rising wedge which is breaking down. Is it necessarily? No. But it really is the obvious interpretation. So this is the best fit on it. Do we have a potential topping pattern here? This could be an asymmetric double top, but it could also very much be possible head and shoulders forming. So I am wondering about a right shoulder rally here, and that could fit with CL breaking up. HO and RBOB have both been significantly stronger than light crude. Looking at RBOB here, we've broken down from the rising wedge, and again, I'm looking for a topping pattern. Again, I'd be wondering about a possible head and shoulders forming. If so, we'd need to go a little lower probably to reach the ideal trend line and to reach the weak pivot. Okay, looking at NG, very nice looking potential level top, or part formed head and shoulders. We've got a 6-minute sell signal fixed. Not, I have to say, currently going down much on the signal. The RSI is going down, but without price actually doing much more than moving sideways. If that continues to be the case, then we've probably got some more unfinished business to the upside. All right, looking at WTIC. Bigger picture, obviously, is the same. We've got a falling wedge, it's broken up, and we're looking for a reversal pattern. And we've got the same thing on heating oil, and we've got the same thing on gas oil. So really, we've got all of these showing bullish patterns, setting up probable reversal patterns. Do we have those reversal patterns? Well, potentially yes. We didn't quite make the full retest of the low here on WTIC, and I'd quite like to see the full retest of the low made, and that would be getting down to 56.06. But technically, this is a decent looking double top already. Double bottom already. And if we saw a sustained break up over 78.4, then that would have a target in about the 100 area. That is a rally I'm thinking that we might see over the next year or so. Looking at heating oil, we've got an RSI 5 sell signal which is fixed today on the daily chart, and I'm leaning towards seeing at least some more downside, and that could give us the low retest on CL. Meantime, though, in terms of an overall reversal pattern, this is a pretty nice looking IHS. Nicely formed, just waiting for it to break up. And if this broke up, this would sustain break up over 2650, would have a target in about the 3370 area, and I'm thinking that's got a decent shot too. On gas oil, this is a nice looking double bottom. This was an obvious flag, retested the low, set up the double bottom, pretty classic. Has it broken over resistance yet? No. You can see it's got up to this resistance trend line here, and it's reversing there so far. Doesn't mean this isn't double bottom though, and I like this overall setup, and I like the overall bullish setup on all of the oils, which are actually towards the lows of where I would expect them to be, because below here we start losing production. An awful lot of American production particularly isn't profitable over $50. So on oil, and obviously the recent lows were at 56. So that's the level at which we'll start losing significant amounts of production, or at least significant amount of production that are being pulled out and then being sold basically for even money. And not at a profit. This is where I would expect lows to form, in the 50s. And if we see a move up from here, well, it's not that long since we were at, if you have a look, we were at 126. When Ukraine war started, and I'm thinking of this from the position of Russia, where we were just coming off, we were still well above 100. And this is, of course, would have been one calculations and what they were expecting to be a short war, which is that their finances are very robust. Now, of course, they're pulling it out for $40. $40 at $100, they were making $60 a barrel. Down here, they're probably making something like 10 to 15. Not good for them. And that's one reason why I'm thinking the reason that we might see a big rally here is the Russian economy is actually looking fairly close to collapse. If that pulled out, if the Russians actually collapsed and stopped producing oil for a couple of years, that would take $9 million barrels a day off the market. That is a lot of production to lose, and that is something that could definitely give us a rally back to 100. It's just something to think about. But is there a potential trigger that could cause a significant shortage in the market, and instead of supply being over demand as it is at the moment by a couple of million barrels a day, this could bring it under by about 5 or 6 million barrels a day. That actually has a big impact on the price. That could see this rally get back up over 100, and I'm thinking that might well be the way this develops. All right, looking at natural gas, we've been seeing a seasonal rally here. I'm leaning towards this resolving downwards. I was thinking we should see a rally to 4.59, and we've seen it. I'm thinking this is a bit oversized to be a double top, but I think this is a retest of resistance area, and it's an obvious fail area which we could see this head down at. In terms of, do we have negative divergence? Yeah, we got a lot of it. Whereas remember, I was talking about, when we were down here, I was talking about it going up $1 or so in a seasonal rally, and we've seen $2. That is plenty. That may be enough, and we've got possible weak RSI 14 sell signal brewing. We've got a possible daily RSI 5 weak sell signal brewing. These are decent looking sell signals at a significant resistance level, which we're pretty much exactly testing. I'm thinking it may reverse here. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's have a look at GC. Okay, GC. We had Head and Shoulders break down on GC, on SI, and on Palladium. SI1 fell first. We had an alternate IHS breakup, which I was tracing through as it was forming, and that's broken up and it's retested the high. GC, that one fell today. This is the line I drew in for where it needed to get through if it was going to fail. That's failed too. I think that's also heading back into a retest of the high. Palladium one, I suspect, is going to fail, and it's now getting pretty close. I think what we're looking at is a minimum retest of the high on metals and potentially just a leg up to go higher. Platinum, this still looks like a bear flag forming, but go up somewhat higher and that flag will start falling apart, and that may well retest the high too. HG, I'm thinking we may do a high retest here. After that, I'm thinking we go down, and we may just go down first. We already have a very nice looking double top here. I'm not seeing an awful lot of reason for HG to be going up, although it is going to be one of the things which will get a lot of there'll be a fair amount of demand on an awful lot of the AI data centers, if in fact these data centers are ever built. That I think is debatable, but I think some of them will be built, and that may well be holding up demand here. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts on those. Okay, gold has got back above the daily middle band, and I'm expecting to retest the high. Would I be astonished if it continued higher from there? No, I wouldn't. Looking at silver, we had nice looking head and shoulders here. Didn't ever broke down on the daily chart here. All this one here is the equivalent one. Either way, it failed, and on the futures, it's already made the retest of the high, and I think it'll make it in the next day or two on the daily here. Do we start setting up some decent negative divergence when we retest those highs? Yes, we set up some very nice negative divergence on the weekly. Not on the monthly. Looking at silver, again, I'm thinking not on the monthly. Nope. But decent negative divergence on the weekly. Because one thing I was saying when we were down here was we were not going to get any powerful negative divergence on here unless we retest the highs. There's a chance that when we retest the highs, we could be topping out for a larger retracement. And we will certainly be setting up a fair amount of decent divergence. We will see. But would I be surprised to see it head straight up? No. Looking at palladium, again, we can set up some decent negative divergence by retesting the high. Looking at the daily chart, I'm wondering whether this is an IHS and whether we're about to see a serious breakup on palladium. If we were to see a sustained breakup through this level, through the neckline here at 1666, then that would have a target in approximately the 2500 area, 2500 to 2540. That could get us all the way back up to here, which actually wouldn't be an unreasonable target for a strong rally here. So I'm thinking that may well be happening. On platinum, of course, we've already seen that break up. We saw an IHS form here. We've seen that break up. We've seen a retracement here, which isn't uncommon after a break. And if that just heads straight back up higher, then that could be heading to the target, which would be a retest of this high here, which is the 2008 high at 2290. I'm wondering if that's on the table too. Certainly, these are both of them pretty nice looking breaks up. And I am thinking that the precious metal market may have a lot further to run. We will see how that goes. I would mention, though, that on the platinum weekly chart, we've already got negative divergence, but no fixed signals here, and they may never fix. Get enough upside, and we'll lose the divergence on those too. Meantime, in the short term, we've gone through all the daily middle bands. Hang on, let me just check on the palladium one. Yep, we're through that one too. Obvious next target is retest the highs or across the board on the precious metals, and I think that's probably what we're going to see. All right, looking at copper. Copper, we're still on an RSI 14 sell signal fixed. We've still got a nice looking double top here. I'm thinking that might break down. We could retest the high and set up a smaller double top. But bigger picture, we reached a big high earlier in the year, and really, I'm expecting to see some downside here. I'm not seeing, it may be the AI data centers are going to keep up demand enough, but the rest of the American economy is probably not. We'll see. The Chinese, I don't think, have been buying as much lately either. GDX, Probably going to see retest the highs here too. We do still have an RSI 14 sell signal fix on GDX, but actually that would probably survive the high retest. Nothing to mention on the hourly apart from just to comment that this no longer looks like a potential topping pattern. This is likely going straight back up. GDX, GDXJ likely heading back up to a retest of the high as well. We had a nice looking head and shoulders here. It broke down, it failed. Where's the target when it fails? Back up at a retest of the high. So that's what I'm expecting to see next. We'll see how that goes. I did draw this on the GDXJ chart as a possible bullish triangle. That triangle has also broken up. This double bottom has broken up. Now that's actually pretty close to the target. But I've got that in about the 105 area. But really, from this looking sort of setup, I'd be leaning towards seeing a retest of the high here at 112.45. All right, let's have a look at the other commodities. KC. We've got a little double top here, which is broken down. I'd love to see a retest of this high, but it may be that we're not going to see it. No current divergence, sell signal, no sell signal either. This is broken down with a target at a retest of this low here, which is in about the 358 area. We will see. More to say about all of these on the daily charts, of course. Sugar, we've actually seen some movement on sugar, and this double bottom is looking as though it might actually break up. If it does, then this would have a target up in about the 15.4 area, I think. That could get us back up to here. Decent looking target, not going to shake the world or anything, but a decent looking target, and might potentially see some more upside from that, even though on the bigger picture, gotta say I've got a decent looking setup for it going down as well. CC, this is broken down from the flag and made the target at the low. This may well just continue down. We've got a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing now. This is a potential double bottom. So if we don't see a breakdown, a further slide down from here, then we could see a decent rally. If we saw a sustained break up over the 6,700 area, then this would have a target at about the 7,700 area up here. Keeping an open mind on that, we'll have a look at the daily chart. CT, this is a bear flag, which has broken down and almost made it to a target, retest the low. Hasn't quite made it yet, and I'd expect it normally to make the full target. So we will see how that goes. Looking at lumber made it to a retest of the low. 60-minute buy signal fixed, hasn't made target yet. We may see a bit more rally, but one thing that wouldn't surprise me at all is to see this head down. I've got a target a long way down on the bigger picture on lumber, and again, I'm not seeing much reason for it not to be heading there. We could see a larger rally here. We've retested the low. We've got a nice looking double bottom. If we see a sustained break up over 598, then we could see a move up, which could take us up into about the 620 area, I think. We could see that, but bigger picture, I'm leaning short. CW, we had an IHS, broke up, failed, almost made it back to a retest of this low. At the moment, this looks like a bear flag forming, setting up at least to retest this low and possibly lower. We will see. Looking at corn, we had a likely bull flag here, which has broken up with a target at a retest of this high here. Chances are we're going to make that. And I've got that target in about the 437 area. That could be the second high of a double top when we get that. Soy, we had a double top breakdown, and again, I was leaning towards seeing a retest of the high. We're pretty close to that. Could again be a double top when we get there. ZL, this looks like we've got a nice looking potential double bottom here, but this looks like a bear flag. 6-minute sell signals reach the possible near miss target now. It could continue higher, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this break down into another retest of the low. Live cattle, possible bottoming action here. Watching the monthly pivot, which is also a potential IHS neckline. Just seeing a little pullback here, which looks like a bull flag. Still leaning towards some more upside. Lean hogs, we broke up from a falling wedge here. It could be that we're just forming a larger pattern here, but if not, then I'm looking for some bottoming action here. The obvious thing to do would be to retest the low. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And coffee. Coffee, would I be surprised to see this heading down? No. We're a significant distance out of the traditional norms for the levels at which this would be trading. And we've also got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fixed on the weekly chart. On the daily chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed. We've got a potential level top here already. Could be, if we do see a retest this high here at 4.379, then this could be setting up a smaller and less ambitious double top. Although possibly you could view it as a nested double top with both of them being valid. I'm liking the downside here, I gotta say. Looking at sugar. Sugar, I've been watching this with interest because if we got positive divergence here and it broke up on that positive divergence, it would make it less likely that this head and shoulders would make target. This is a big head and shoulders, and it's broken down with a minimum target at a retest this low here at 905. And an extended target significantly below that. Is that within the ranges of reason? Yes, that's actually the where the longer term average of sugar has been. Although obviously this chart does not take into account inflation. Could well head down there at the moment. We keep losing divergence, and this has lost the possible RSI 5 divergence it had on the monthly chart. Looking at the weekly chart, we haven't got any positive divergence either. We do have a decent looking pattern which could take us higher, and we've got a decent looking tiny little level top here, which double bottom here, which is neither here nor there in terms of the moves that we are looking at here. I'm not seeing an awful lot here to suggest that we're not going to head higher. I would say we've got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed. Sorry, I'd forgotten to put in the arrow. So let's put in that. We have got a daily RSI 5 buy signal fixed here. I think that little level bottom may well play out. I'm more skeptical about a larger move up from here because the setups we've already gone through would have delivered larger moves. We had a lovely looking double bottom here, and it went down straight down through that. Go down much further, and then 9.5 will become the main target. Looking at cocoa, again, we are well outside historical norms for where this is trading. We broke down through the support here at 64.27, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see this continue down. We're still on an RSI 14 sell signal, and these do tend to make a target in time, although that can take quite a few years. Looking at cocoa on the daily, no current divergence. We got a potential double bottom here. I'm concerned about the fact we haven't got any divergence. I think we may just continue down, but the double bottom is worth bearing in mind, and I will be bearing it in mind until we've broken down enough that I disregard it. In the meantime, though, you can see that I was looking at potential. This was an IHS which broke up and failed. This was a potential level bottom. This is now another potential level bottom. We may well just go down through this one as well. All right, let's have a look at wheat. Okay, wheat. Bigger picture, we've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed, and that hasn't made target yet, and that is adding some downward pressure. We've got an IHS which is we've got a double bottom which is broken up here. But to be honest, if we see a breakdown through the daily middle band and go a bit lower, that would actually be within the normal ranges of what I would expect to see on this kind of pattern after a breakup. You would often see a 50 back and then a move up. It's more this gap area here, I'm probably thinking might well hold. But at the moment, I'm still leaning towards the upside, and I'm just seeing this as a retracement, but I'm thinking it may go lower short term. Looking at corn on the weekly chart, no current divergence. We have broken up from the falling wedge that I've been watching for, well, quite a while. Shorter term, we've got an IHS which is broken up with a target higher, and waiting to see if we can get through this high here. If we can, then I've got an IHS target which is up in the 495 area, which is fairly ambitious, but I think looks doable on the chart. I'm thinking we can see a decent move there. So I would like it to retest this high here at 436.25 and continue higher. It might not, of course, but we've not got much in the way of signals suggesting it won't. Looking at soybeans, this looks like a flag for basically, well, all year pretty much. This is broken up and no longer looks like a flag, but I'm still looking for some kind of a reversal pattern that might involve a low retest, in which case the effect would be much the same. Looking at cotton, we've got a very nice looking level bottom here. We're showing absolutely no signs of heading up towards the double bottom resistance, which I've got in about the 73.5 area. We have got a weak RSI 14 buy signal fixed on the weekly. We'll see how that goes. Lumber, we've got, this is another flag which is performing a lot better than the cotton one, but this is soybeans one rather. But this is a flag which has been forming since the start of 23, and we got up to resistance. And I was talking about the double top there, and we broke it down for it. We've seen a strong rally from there, and we're now back lower. We're getting pretty close to double top, to flag support, which I've got in about the 485 area. If we see a break below that, then the flag target will be at a retest this low here at 35250, and we've already got a little double top target which is in the same area. I'm thinking it's got a very good chance of making that target and retesting this low. That could be the second low and might well be the second low of a double bottom when we get there, but I think there's a pretty good chance we are going to get there. So we will see how that goes. In the short term, no positive divergence at all. So I'm really leaning towards this heading down. Nice looking double bottom on the 60 on the hourly chart, but bigger picture, I'm leaning strongly towards the downside. All right, let's have a look at crypto. Right, crypto, we've seen a limited rally here, but it really has been limited. And that has me wondering, because of course we're in the big inflection point here, and I've kind of been leaning towards this rallying with equities, and it may be that it's about to start having a decent rally with equities. But at the moment, in terms of the daily middle bands, we've tested the daily middle band on Bitcoin, rejected there fairly strongly. I'm looking at Solana. Solana on the daily chart, we haven't even made it back to the daily chart. We've just back tested the broken head and shoulder neckline for the pattern, which has us going an awful lot lower. And on Ethereum, we've done the same. At the moment, this looks like it's just marking times until we see some high retests and some decent topping patterns form on equities. That, if this continues to be the case, this will have me leaning more bearishly on equities, although I'm still thinking that RTY's got a nice setup to retest the high, and it may well make it. We shall see. And I'd quite like to see SPX retest the high too. Slightly more doubtful about Qs. We will see. All right, great. In that case, that's a wrap. Apologies for this being in the evening rather than in the morning. I couldn't do this morning for a number of reasons. So next Wednesday, be back to the morning again. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys again on Sunday.